It's very short.
Sorry, I don't know. Most of the time the conference center will open like 7, but today I don't know why. It's closed at 4, so I have no place. I'm in the parking lot.
No
Sorry.
worries. Yeah. Let's start if
Uh,
you're ready.
Nima is joining us. Hi, Nima.
Hello.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
This is Noah, right? Or did I pronounce the name right? Hello.
Yes, yeah, it's Noel.
Noel. Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, guys. We're going to keep it short today, guys, 30 minutes.
Great. Thank you. All right. Okay. Abla, can you start to share your slides?
I'm not going to be sharing slides today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it simple.
Okay. So, okay. All right. I think Bristol has already started a recording. I get kicked out again. I'm sorry. Abla, please take it away. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for joining us. And we're going to keep it short, I promise. I see some of my students already joined in. Guys, you've heard it probably sometime from your Arab neighbor or your Muslim neighbor or if you're coming from an Islamic background, someone saying Arabic is a sacred language or the Quran is a miraculous book. And today I'm going to go over the answer of the big question, why do Muslims consider Arabic a sacred language? And why do Muslims consider the Quran miraculous as a miraculous book? Now, according to, I see some people, yeah, I'm admitting people to the, Gracelyn, you can take care of that. Or Crystal, maybe Dr. Crystal. Now, according to Muslims, Islam is considered a monotheistic Abrahamic religion that complements all previous monotheistic religions, corrects and purifies them, and it's flexible enough, it's general enough to speak to the need of a humanity till the end of all times. And for that reason, Muslims believe Arabic was divinely chosen to be the language of the last revelation. Muslims believe Prophet Muhammad to be the seal of all prophets, which means he didn't only speak to his audience, to his contemporary audience, to the 7th century pre-Islamic Arabs, but he spoke to humanity while speaking or via speaking to his own contemporaries. And today I'm gonna go with you over some samples, some examples from my own research and some oversimplified way of explaining why do Muslims believe of the Quran as a miraculous book. Muslims think or believe Prophet Muhammad didn't work through temporary physical miracles to address his own people only, but he was aided by an everlasting miracle, which is the Qur'an, a book that can accompany generations to come. And one might soundly ask the question, how can a book be a miracle? What is the power of books or in books? And never to underestimate the power of books. We should always remember that religions, civilizations, states, countries are all based on books. They're based on revealed books like the Gospels, the Torah. It could be a great scientific theory that starts something new. It could be a new theory in philosophy that starts a new political system, or it could be a document like the Medina Charter, for example, or like the Constitution. So this is an introduction to Quran as a miracle, right? Usually also you're going to hear when people talk about the Quran as a miracle, they usually ask you, do you mean the scientific miracles in the Quran? So usually, and this is something I already discussed with my students and women in the Quran, miracles in the Quran are divided into scientific miracles. And I mean by that loosely or generally, verses in the Quran with scientific significance that could assure the audience the supernatural, I would say, origin of this book. It's kind of a challenge, let's say, to generations that are going to be obsessed with science like our generations, or maybe generations to come. At the end of the day, we should keep in mind that the Quran is not a book of history. It's not a book of science. It doesn't provide full scientific theories. It provides hints here and there. And always let's keep in mind that the goal is not to provide you with a full scientific theory to replace a human's agency and even a human's role in understanding the universe, building and finalizing their own theories. And scientific theories, they do change. The history of science is the history of theories correcting each other and changing each other and replacing old theories by new theories. But we find in the Quran are just hints that usually you can understand only after there is a scientific theory finalized. So you can go and you can ask, how come that this hint was there? I'm not a scientist myself, but I'm going to be focusing more on linguistic miracles, or the miraculous, I would say, accuracy of the Quran, the multi-layered meanings in the Quran, and why the Quranic language is precise to the point that it is considered to be a divine language. For people interested in scientific theories or scientific miracles in the Quran, I can suggest the work of Abd Daim al-Kahil, and he has a website. He's a Syrian engineer originally from Homs. He has research papers and a full website translated to languages, including Arabic and basically Arabic, of course, and translated to English on scientific miracles in the Quran. It's Kahil, KAHEEL 7.com. You can go and explore there, where he has some Quranic verses with scientific hints. Today, I'm going to be addressing more Quran as a linguistic miracle. The language of the Quran forms its own genre. It's a combination between prose and poetry, but not poetry. Again, it's independent genre. Key features include captivating impact on audience. Its unmatchable accuracy in describing human feelings and referring to things with accuracy. It has something for everyone in a way or another, but as a book that is addressing general, universal audience, it has a built-in generality and a semantic evolving nature. And let me explain. quickly what I mean by that with some examples. So with the generality of the Quran, which is misunderstood by many to be, it's a text very difficult to understand or read. This is not the case. The Quran speaks a general language for purpose. The style of the Quran is a minimalist style, which means don't expect chronological order, don't expect names, dates, places to be mentioned there. What is mentioned is the minimal details that will make the message more relevant to different audience coming from different generations, different ethnic backgrounds, different interests, and different times. So words are general in a way that everyone can feel related to. And I'm going to give you an example from chapter number 4 and the verse number 14. We're going to be talking very soon in Women the Quran, I believe Thursday, on marriage in the Quran. And this verse, and I'm talking about 4:19, mentions what I call the golden rule in marriage. Mention an advice to men in marriage, to husbands, وَعَشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Live with them according to al-ma'ruf. And al-ma'ruf is driven from arafa, which means to know in Arabic. And ma'ruf can mean, it can mean also a favor. So if I ask you to do me ma'ruf, I ask you to do me a favor. Usually it's translated as kindness. Live with them in an honorable manner, in a kind manner. But it's more than kind, because kind is only latif in Arabic. So generally, it's very general. So live with them, if we want to be very literal about translating it, according what is known as being nice and approved. And the question is, what is known as being in marital context? What is known as being a kind, nice for your time, right? For your community, for your standards, for your society. Of course, it's on the top of the list. It's of course, it still needs to be honorable and kind. It's driven from Arafah, what is known, what is approved, but still it's not narrowed down to a specific set of rules. Because if you narrow it down to a specific set of rules, by definition, it won't fit the needs of all people, all generations. The need of a woman or women to be treated, to consider themselves treated with dignity, with kindness. Let's say in the 2026 Nebraska, definitely it's different from you're speaking about women in a pre-Islamic Arabia, 7th century, or contemporary women, other places, other times. It's going to be different. And therefore, the general way of addressing it, وَعَشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, live with them according to what is known to be kind. It means what is known by you to be kind and approved. The other feature in the Quranic language I mentioned is it has an evolving nature, which means it moves with you up according to your spiritual level, your consciousness, your awareness, your knowledge, your reading. The same text is not fixed, but it can be fixed only if you stop evolving in knowledge and in nature or spiritual awareness or even your age. You can come back to the same verse after doing more readings, and this is how something happens to me all the time. Every time, of course, we don't have enough time to contemplate on every verse. I do this for living. This is what I do, like Qur'anic studies. Therefore, I have more time to do that. But every time you go to the same text, to the same verse, you get new meanings from it. Now, this happens not only at the level of individuals, it happens at the level of generations. So, for example, and I'm going to go back now to the scientific topics in the Quran, verses that refer to scientific facts that were not accessible to people before, and scientific discoveries made them accessible, made us now understand those verses in a way that was not available to the first audience who received those verses before. For example, In chapter 25, in the chapter of Al-Furqan, and I'm talking about 25:53, the Quran seems to be challenging humanity with a divine sign in the universe, and this is a recurring theme in the Quran. Look at this, consider that, reflect on this and that, by referring to a scientific phenomena, which is two types of water underseas coexisting without mixing, one very sweet and one salty. So the Quran says, and it's He who has released simultaneously the two seas, one fresh and sweet, and one salty and bitter, and He placed between them a barrier and a prohibiting partition. This can be understood to us now, right, based on going deep into oceans and seas and observing the phenomena of two different natures, of two different waters, if we can say salty and sweet, or what is called rivers under seas now. But the question will be, how could Prophet Muhammad, who lived in a pre-Islamic Arabia, Saudi Arabia is a very dry place. It's known to be very dry, no single river. So how could he even fabricate or make up stuff like that about two types of water coexisting under deep rivers, deep waters, deep seas, and hint to it with such an accuracy? So the same text will move with different audience according to their knowledge. I'm assuming I can imagine the first recipients of this verse. They took it with faith and belief. This could be referring to something we don't have enough knowledge, but they took it because of their belief in it. It applies now to some maybe different verses that our audience, maybe future scientific evidence will provide more about. Let me move now to 3 examples that I'm going to be sharing with my students to the unmatchable accuracy of the language of the Quran, of Arabic as a sacred language. I'm going to be sharing a verse from the story of Adam and Eve in the Quran. And as I shared with my students in the class today, only one proposition, the switch in one proposition, will end with the switch from blaming Eve to blaming Adam in the act of disobedience. And we're talking the story of the fall of Adam, which traditionally was processed with a patriarchal interpretation that ended up with portraying Eve as the one who introduced sin to the world. She was the one to fall for the temptation of Satan, of Ash-Shaytan first. She ate from the tree, prohibited the tree first, and then she conceived her husband to do the same. The Quran doesn't endorse all of that. It's the opposite according to the Quran. And it's a long story. If interested, we discuss it in Global Islam Current Debates, and we discuss it in Women in the Quran. I discuss it. I have a chapter on it in Decoding the Egalitarianism of the Quran, my first book. But one proposition will switch the story from blaming Eve to blaming Adam. I'm going to get to that. My second example will be showing that there is no repetition of words in the Quran. When we understand, when we receive a word as repeating meanings, it's on us. We didn't understand the full meaning. And the repetition of one word in the Quran will prove the prophethood of Mary. Females can become prophets, and it's going to switch from mainstream traditional Islam that negated that women can be prophets, into acknowledging it. And if we get additional time, extra time, I'm going to go quickly over a scene from the story of Job, or Ayub in Arabic, that was understood as repeating the same scene. There is no repetition of scenes in the Quran. And it's going to prove that Job was complaining about 2 different things when he repeated the same prayer in Arabic. Let me start by the story of Adam and Eve. So in the Quranic version of this story, we have Satan is speaking and seducing first Adam to eat from the prohibited tree. And then we have, as a team, Adam and Eve jointly eating from the tree. And we're talking, of course, about an earthly garden. And the result, the story ended with both of them. They had to leave their provided dwelling. The consequences were individual. The punishment was limited to Adam and Eve, which makes more sense when it comes to Islamic theology, where sin is individual. It can't be inherited from Adam to his offspring. But there was a scene in the Quran where we have the shaitan or Satan whispering to both of them. And the wording in Arabic is فَوَسْوَسَ لَهُمَا الشَّيْطَانِ. And this is in chapter 7 in verse 20. Waswasa means to whisper. Just like it doesn't need a preposition the same way in Arabic, but to understand it, it's like look in English, look at, look for, right? Look after. So you're changing the meaning by changing the preposition. So فَوَسْوَسَ لَهُمَا الشَّيْطَانِ. So when Satan was whispering to both Adam and Eve, we have the preposition li. While in chapter 20, in verse 120, when Satan was trying to tempt Adam to talk, to whisper to Adam, not talk, whisper, because shaitan is invisible. It's like self-talk. We have إِلَى فَوَسْوَسَ إِلَيْهِ الشَّيْطَانِ. And this will raise the question, what is the difference between la, li, or ila as a preposition following waswasa? Now, paying attention to the difference that the Quran didn't use the same preposition in both scenes, and to the way changing the preposition changed the meaning in the Quran. When I use li after the verb or after waswasa, this means I'm not talking about my final destination. When I use ila, only then I'm talking about the final destination. Now let's apply this distinction to the two verses. فَوَسْوَسَ لَهُمَا الشَّيْطَانِ. So when Satan was talking to both Adam and Eve, he was talking to them, but without having that as his final destination. He got his hopes up only when he was talking only to Adam. فَوَسْوَسَ إِلَيْهِ, to him, الشَّيْطَانِ. Which means this is taking us into journey into Satan's psychology. Satan knew, and the plan worked well, that if I only convince Adam to eat from the tree, she's going to follow him. And this is what happened according to the Quranic story. She has full agency. She's responsible for what she did. I'm not saying she's not going to be blamed, but it's twisting the biblical / traditional Islamic narrative. Eve was not the one to start with the disobedience. She was not the one who introduced sin or evil to the world. It was Adam who started, and she only followed him. Moving from this to there is no repetition of words in the Quran. And I told you that the repetition of one verb in the Quran will prove the Mary as a prophet, as a unique female prophet. And I'm quoting from Al Imran from chapter 3. This is also, you find it in, this is my own ijtihad, and you'll find it in my first book, Decoding the Egalitarianism of the Quran. And we're talking about chapter 3, Al Imran, verses 42-43. In Arabic, it says, وَإِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ يَا مَرْيَمُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَاكِ وَطَهَّرَكِ وَاصْطَفَاكِ عَلَى نِسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Even when I'm saying the Arabic, you can notice that we have istafaki, it's repeated there. And mention when the angel said, "O Mary, indeed Allah has chosen you and purified you and chosen you above the women of the worlds." And the question is, why the repetition of chosen you? It's not like the problem was gone without, notice from scholars. Many scholars argued for why do we have a repetition here? Some of them try to solve the problem by saying, okay, it could be referring to Mary as being chosen different times in her life, like early in her life and late in her life. And the objection with that interpretation, that will need a conjunction other than what, other than and. So it won't be chosen you and purified you and chosen you. It should be then chosen you and purified you, thumma, and chosen you, which is not the case. So long story short, we have not only a repetition, but a meaningful repetition. Because the first time the verse mentions you've been chosen, or Allah has chosen you, it leaves it without saying precisely chosen you above who. And this means that Mary was chosen not only once, but twice. The first type of choosing Mary, she was chosen, just chosen, like the chosen people. And who are the chosen people in the Quran? Prophets. She was chosen the way everyone else is chosen. All other prophets are chosen, which means she's a prophet, not a messenger. Patriarchy makes, because a messenger is different than a prophet. A messenger is a prophet with a mission to convey a message, a divine message to their people. Very tough, very hard, even for male prophets. Patriarchy won't allow a woman to take something like that. So I'm not arguing for her as a messenger, but as a prophet, she had her own miracles. She had an encounter with the angel of revelation, Gabriel himself, and she spoke to angels like what we have in this scene. So she was chosen like everyone else. Mary is not superior to any male prophet. She's not inferior either to any male prophet. She's equal. She's a prophet. Mainstream Islam, with an exception of Imam Ibn Hazm al-Andalusi and al-Qurtubi, who approved prophethood for women, almost the majority had issues with that. And I can imagine why people will have issues with a female prophet, because what does a human being as a prophet mean? It means the perfection in all aspects. So if you argue for a woman to be perfect in all aspects, then you're throwing under the bus the argument for the inferiority based on gender inferiority of women and the full equality between men and women. But the Quran had no issues with that. Now, and purified you and chosen you. Now, we have a specific category. Chosen you, istafaki ala nisa al-alamin, above the women of the worlds. So Mary, according to the Quran, she is chosen as the best of all women now. She's one of a kind. She's a role model, not only for Christians, but for Jews, for Muslims. She's a role model for all women, and she has a unique aspect. She's going to conceive from no male partner with the word of God, with prophet, the miracle of God, prophet Jesus. No other woman will share with her that, and she's going to still be unique in that aspect. Long story short, to summarize everything we have, just by repeating, I would say, paying attention to the miraculous language of the Quran, or the Arabic of the Quran, repeating one verse proves Mary to be a prophet, equal to all other prophets, and one of a kind woman, the best of all women, all times, all places, all generations. No one will be able to share with that rank, high rank. The last thing before I leave this scene is where and purified you come. وَطَهَّرَكِ. Purified you comes after choosing Mary as a prophet, not before it, which means women don't need any purification to be able to be equal to men, or Mary didn't need any purification of any kind to be elected as a female prophet, right? There is nothing inferior in the nature of women to make them less, even when we argue for them as prophets. The purification was needed only to make her capable of a miracle, or of conceiving in a miraculous way. I'm ending with negating the possibility of repeating scenes or full expressions in the Quran. And I'm using now from an example from the story of Job or Ayub. And this is Job. This is a story shared biblical at Quranic story. Ayub or Job in 2183 seems to be praying about something. وأيوب إذ نادى ربه إني مسني الضر وأنت أرحم الراحمين. Remember Job, when he cried to his Lord, suffering has truly afflicted me, but you are the most merciful of the merciful. The English is not addressing all the nuances I would say we have in the Arabic, but I'm going to do my best to bridge the gaps there. Now we have another scene, and we're talking about Surah Sad, chapter 38, verse 41. واذكر عبدنا أيوب إذ نادى ربه أني مسني الشيطان بنصب وعذاب. And remember our servant Job, when he cried out to his Lord, Satan has afflicted me with distress and suffering. Many confuse the two scenes as if they're referring to the same thing. Again, there is no repetition in the Quran. Everything stands for its own meaning. Now, if we narrow down, if we zoom a little bit to what the two meanings are referring to, we will notice that Job was praying about two different things. How do we know? We know from the context and from what's coming after the two verses. Let's go back to chapter 21, where Job is complaining about Masaniya Dur, harm, right? He cried to his Lord, I'm really afflicted by this dur, by this harm, and you're the most merciful of the merciful. Now, Job is complaining about something. He's crying out to God. He's praying about something. And it's referred to in a general way, like the style of the Quran, as dur, as harm. This is what we find in the Quran. The tradition went with, this is what happened to Job. He lost his health. He lost his wealth. He lost his kids. We don't have any affirmation to what happened to Job. And the Quran leaves it general for a purpose, right? Here's the thing, one thing general about pain and suffering. You need to validate anyone complaining about anything because we're in different places, right? The agony of a child, let's say a kid, 2-year-old, for losing his toy, let's say, is still his own suffering. He's going to cry about it. You will maybe you're in a different place. You're going to be maybe stressed out about your math exam, right? We're in different places. We suffer for different reasons. And if the Quran narrowed down Job's suffering to something specific happened to him, you could be having something totally different. You don't know what I'm talking about. Your illness, Job, was not the same thing I have, right? So the Quran leaves it general in an open acknowledgement that whatever you feel, you internalize, it hurts you. As hurt, it's hurt, right? It's harm, it's dur. Now, not to confuse this with another scene in the Quran. Now, Job is saying, and here it's Surah Sad, chapter 38, 41. And remember our servant Job, he cried out, Satan has afflicted me with distress and suffering. Now he's specific about Satan, right? It's not harm. It's not something happened to him, but it's something caused by Satan, by the devil, by shaitan, right? And this confused so many theologians. Why? Because the Quran in another place says it clearly, Satan, except for whispers, for bad talk, for bad self-talk, for bad thoughts, except for stress, won't be able to harm human beings. And this caused like confusion in some of the books of tafsir, exegesis, who claimed that Satan caused like a fire, caused Job to lose his health. Satan in the Quran, he doesn't have power other than whispering bad thoughts. And therefore, it's clear that here, Job was complaining not about what happened to him, but about something that we share all as a human beings. Many times, it's not what happens to you that puts you in stress. It's the way you internalize it. If you internalize bad things as a challenge, as a test, as something that makes you stronger, so different from if you internalize it as a punishment. And I've heard and seen many people who go through a very hard time. Why is this happening to me? Why me? Why now? It's not fair, right? Is it a punishment from God? Is it a divine punishment? And there is nothing more harmful to your psyche like when you internalize something happening to you because now as a punishment, because now or you're causing it, something you did. You go with loathing, self-loathing yourself. This is toxic beyond imagine. If you internalize things, not because it's a challenge to make you a better person, but it's happening because you're a bad person. So what job, because nothing, and this is something I deal with in my second book on pain and suffering. We suffer because we're divine, not because we deserve to suffer. No human being deserves to suffer. It's a test to build our merit, to prove our merit. So here probably Job was complaining about something. He has a faith crisis. He was questioning the problem of pain and suffering. He was stressed out about maybe bad thoughts from Satan. Why is this happening? Am I a bad person? Is it happening for me because something bad I said or I did? Now, how do we confirm in the Quran that this interpretation, which again is another ijtihad, could be right? If we go and look into what happened next, what the way these verses were followed by what? So in chapter 21, after Job prayed about the harm that happened to him, whatever that harm was, we had God answering the prayer. We had فاستجبنا له فكشفنا ما به من ضر وآتيناه أهله ومثلهم معهم رحمة من عندنا وذكرى للعابدين. So we answered his prayer and we removed his hardship and gave him his family twice with his family, like something, people acting like his family probably, as a mercy from us. This is a lesson for worshippers. Let's notice here that what he did was, and this is a confirmation that we don't have two scenes interchangeable or repeating the same scene. There's no repetition in the Quran. Here we have the Quran confirming that we answered the prayer. So out of him praying to us, we answered the prayer, we removed his hardship, whatever his hardship was. And then it moves into, this is a lesson for who? For worshippers. Because you need to be a worshipper, a believer in the first place, to seek God, to see in God, not the cause of your pain and suffering, but the refuge from your pain and suffering. Now, if we go to chapter 38, we won't see the same thing. Remember, in chapter 38, we have Job complaining about stress, negative thoughts, bad self-talk, and anxiety, right? Now we see the Quran giving here advice for how to deal with stress. It says, اركض برجلك هذا مغتسل بارد وشراب. We responded, stab your feet, move your feet, run. I'm going to explain more. Here is cool and refreshing cold water. And then he's going to continue. وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ أَهْلَهُ وَمِثْلَهُم مَّعَهُمْ رَحْمَةً مِنَّا وَذِكْرَى لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. And we gave him his family, twice as many, and as a mercy from us. This is a lesson, not to worshiper, it's a lesson for people of reason. So what do we have here? We have, let's say, to-do list, totally different from what we had when Job prayed and God listened to him and answered his prayer. We have someone, regardless of your faith, someone under stress. And the Quran is hinting at something, and I'm not qualified in the medical field, but it could be a hint for people dealing with stress. The Quran seems to be providing activity, exercise. It says literally, irkud, run, برجلك, right? And cold therapy, cold water therapy, whatever that could stand for, right? And I'm leaving it to people of expertise. The other thing we find here, the Quran is saying this is a lesson, not for worshippers anymore, but for anyone with reason. Again, it could be a hint to people from all faiths, because again, the Quran is speaking to humanity, at least as Muslims believe. It could be, this is something for people dealing with, let's say, mental health, mental health providers, something, to you to consider. So this was the advice that the Quran shared with Job to deal with his stress, right? After even maybe after his or before it, who knows, his hardship was removed. And I promised to end early, so I'm ending early. And that's it for today. I don't know if we have time for questions. And if you're still there, Crystal. Thank you for joining, everyone. Crystal, are you there?
Crystal maybe maybe on the highway road.
We lost her again. We lost her again. No worries
Yeah.
at all. I can end here. And we're ending the recording as well.
So could we ask the audience if they have any question?
We can't have the questions for the recording. Gracelyn, you can end the recording, and we can stay for Q&A if there are questions.